Time for the finals. We are on the draw again. Our opponent mulligans to 6, and we have an interesting hand because if we ever draw a forest, then we have the Satyr to power out Polychronos, and we have the mana to cast the whip. I think we are keeping this on the draw. Opponent shouldn't have the most powerful of starts, hopefully. And like I said, any forest is just absolutely insane with this hand. It looks like we got it, which is going to make this an absolutely crazy draw. Playing against white-green probably means that the Satyr is surviving also. This is insane. This was what Makahito Mihara did in the Pro Tour top 8, pouring out Polychronos on turn 3. I can't block here because I don't want to run into any kind of trick. Could also be Divine Verdict, of course, which is what it looks like after our opponent passed here. That means we are just going to run out the Disciple. Once we are sure it's the Verdict, we can also play Time to Feed. But I'm not going to expose my Polychronos without good reason. Wow. 5/5 flying first strike. 4/4 flying first strike, which is important because we want to play Time to Feed. We could attack first, maybe. No. Don't think there's anything our opponent should be too afraid of, and then he just double blocks and then our Polychronos is dead. So even if we play the whip, it's just not great, so let's just play it safe here. What we could do is trade the cursor for the Disciple, but with the whip in play, with the whip in hand and the rescue from the underworld, I don't think we want to do that. Opponent has a 5/5 of his own. Now this deals X damage and then gets dealt damage equal to the power. So we could deal 1 to the cursor and then we would survive the Nemesis. If we get 1 more mana, then we can actually just trade with both of these creatures, which would be fine at this stage in the game. Nessian Cursor doesn't do much here, so we actually can't risk a double block because we would just lose our creature, which we don't want. We're also very constrained on mana, and this is threatening to become a 10/10, so all of these things have to be considered. It might actually be best to just say go and just activate Polychronos to make it a 6/6, and then we are still threatening to Time to Feed the Nemesis. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't think we want to face a large Nemesis of Mortals. And I'm putting my opponent on Divine Verdict rather than a pump spell. The Warden is a creature that we could just kill if we had 1 more mana. On the other hand, if we ever draw mana, then everything is fine also. Now this looks like a 2 mana pump spell, of course. There is Savage Surge and others. Especially because playing the Warden doesn't make any sense. He would just lose it to a creature. Still gonna do this, I think. Yeah, it's not great, it's not optimal, but our hand is full, so we need to use our mana on our turn. Now at least we have a 6/6. And I'm just going to try to time to feed here. If it's not working, that's kind of bad, but I think it was worth the risk. Blocking here allows our opponent to make his snake a 10/10. So we basically need to draw some lands, but we shouldn't be dying super quickly. Hopefully. That's a land. That's a start. So now Rip of Erebos is probably the best we can do against the Nemesis. And then we might also play Rescue from the Underworld at some point. Yeah, it isn't great, but let's hope that this allows us to survive. The snake is really good, which is why I wanted to kill it, but unfortunately our opponent did have the trick, which wasn't unlikely, but I felt like we had to do something. Okay, so now running into Nemesis of Mortals isn't the best idea in the world. But we're also dead if we don't do anything, so that's going to be a bit more difficult. Do we need this mana for anything? We can't really rescue from the Underworld, so no. Night Holer. It's only a 2/2. So we can't play that because the Warden would just tap it. And if we drop the Cursor, it's also getting tapped, which just leaves the activation. And Polukranos gives us 5 life. The Disciple gives us 3 + 3, so that's 6. We go up to 14. Yeah, we might need the life later also, but I don't think we'll have that much time. Also, a 3/3 is more likely to be able to be tapped down by the Warden. We're almost dead here, of course, but there is still a small chance that we can make it by drawing lands, of course. Okay, I think now we are pretty much dead here. did draw land, but now playing the Asp means that... Oh wait, we take 5. Yeah, we are dead if our opponent takes with everything, but I'm just going to try it. We have to chump block the Nemesis, and if the Warden attacks, then we take exactly lethal. But if it doesn't, and that's what it looks like, then we survive for one more turn, which isn't actually relevant because we are just dying the turn after, but it's at least something that we've learned about our opponent. Yeah, we can concede now. We are just dead to what our opponent is doing over there. The time to feed definitely ran into quite the blowout. Probably should have anticipated that. Still think that the 10-10 would have been a problem with the lack of mana we had. So I'm not super unhappy about how I played this game. Definitely could have been played differently though. Let's see. We didn't see too many bestow creatures, only the +2/+2 and vigilance, I think. Viper's Kiss is interesting because it handles the Viper to an extent, but also the Tapper that he played. So I kind of like the Kiss. And Pharika's Cure also deals with the Tapper and could be used in response to some kind of trick. Not sure if we need that though. We have quite a lot of Death Touch stuff, so I don't think our matchup should be bad at all. Phalanx is once again the question, if we want that. Rescue from the Underworld seemed kind of bad, but that could have been simply how this game went. We are playing against a deck with not a lot of removal spells, that's for certain, so we could take out one of the rescues and keep the Phalanx in. I don't really like the Phalanx in this matchup. I think I want to be on the play this game, and I don't want to have this. I think Pharika's Cure is better, and we can do with only one rescue from the Underworld. This hand is very fine. Possible that we should just Pharika's Cure the Sedge Scorpion, but I'll first see what our opponent wants to play here. It's always possible that there's an ordeal or something coming down. Just going to get rid of this now. Looks like our opponent doesn't have too much action here. Maybe a 4-drop. This could be the Divine Verdict that I put my opponent on the last time. But it could also just mean that our opponent is lacking plays. We need another land for Asp and Lash of the Whip, but Nessian Cursor isn't a card that I'm unhappy to trade for Divine Verdict, so if that's what our opponent has, I'm fine with the trade, even though it would be more mana efficient if we would strand this in our opponent's hand. But playing against Divine Verdict with Nessian Asp isn't too easy, so kind of like the idea of just drawing a land here to start putting on some pressure. If we don't draw land, hopefully we can draw a card we can cast, of which there are plenty. Disciple of Phoenix, not optimal, but I have to get my spells out here. It's possible that we are just seeing 2 bad cards here. But at least we're seeing quite some spells here. Knowing about Battle-Wise Valor makes it a lot worse, and the 3/2 Griffin is actually quite good. I think, at least it looks pretty good. So we'll let him have the combo trick. We could attack with the Disciple, but there's no reason to. We aren't planning to do anything tricky with it, and if it gets tapped, that's perfectly fine. If the Satyr is getting tapped, then we might want to lash off the Whip in response, but that's going to be relevant only in our upkeep. From the way our opponent has been playing, I would expect that if he has the 4/4 flyer in hand, that he would want to wait till he has the combo trick also. But he's missing a 3rd white for that, so the land he draws would have to be white also. Okay, Voyaging Satyr isn't being tapped. That's the first thing to see here. And now, once again, we don't really know what's going to happen. We know that there is a +2/+2 trick in our opponent's hand, but there could also be a way to deal with the ass. But at this point, if there is another Divine Verdict, I'm willing to run into it. Now this is quite interesting. Okay. So this would make it a 3/4. And then our opponent tries to +2/+2 it also. This is quite ambitious. It doesn't look like he has the protection spell for a single white. At least I'm just going to try to lash off the Whip here. Yeah, that was a pretty good trade, I think. Getting 3 cards for 1. And we still have all the backup we need. We are on 6 mana, so if we draw another one, then we can make this monstrous. I think we should just sip off Hemlock, the Fox, and then almost threaten lethal next turn. Probably actually threatening lethal with the Grey Merchant the turn after. Heliod. It's a cool card. Doesn't do anything on this board though. So now our next attack is just going to kill our opponent. It's kind of unfortunate that on Magic Online you can't see the power of the gods when they are just lying there. I mean, it's good to see that they aren't creatures, but if you haven't remembered the power toughness already, then Magic Online gives you no way of actually knowing, which is kind of weird. Let's see if we do this. No, it just shows what the actual card is. Okay, interesting. So opponent boarded in Artisan Sorrow and immediately killed the Bow of Nylea, but we have too many enchantments to not have that in our deck. We could bring it in also because of Bestow and we saw Heliod, which is a good reason. Oh wait, it's not a good reason, it's indestructible on this. This is only destroy. There is the 3-mana thing that exiles, but we don't have that. So actually it still doesn't make sense to bring in Artisan Sorrow, I feel like. Yeah, I'm kind of happy with how we sideboard. I think Viper's Kiss is still okay because of the many creatures with activated abilities. It stops the 3/2 Griffin also. So even though it's not amazing or anything, it should be good in this matchup. Let's just see who wins the final game. We are on a draw with a pretty slow hand. I'm still going to keep it. The reasoning is, as earlier said, that mana is one of the big weaknesses of our deck. And I don't want to mulligan into a mana light draw. Oh wow. Holy cow. Viper's Kiss, that's good. I think I'm just going to cast that right now. Yeah. Let's not risk anything. This is still a Grizzly Bear now, but at least it doesn't turn into a 4/4 Hexproof Indestructible. Nessian Curser would be a great draw here. Night Howler is awful. Doesn't do anything. Definitely a disadvantage of Night Howler. But if we draw something that we can play next turn, I'm gonna be quite happy. And if not, our 5 drops and the time to feeds somehow have to get us there. I could see playing Nessian Asp and then using time to feed and Night Howler the turn after. Then we can drop Grey Merchant to gain back 4 additional life. Okay, no play from our opponent is good. He could use the Burnished Heart, but that removes the pressure that we are under. Oh yeah, that was an amazing draw. We only have a difficult decision to make if our opponent just attacks with everything. It looks like he's going for more of a late game plan, which should help us. Even though there are some cards that are quite scary. Like this. At least it looks like our opponent doesn't have a trick, or he didn't want to cast the trick to make sure that his Goliath is in play. Okay, Night Howler is still not really doing anything. We could bestow Nylea's Disciple, so that when the Disciple dies, the Night Howler is simply in play, but that doesn't seem reasonable. Let's just play Nessian Asp and see what kind of attacks our opponent has. We have 7 power here, so double blocking Vulpine Goliath isn't absolute suicide. Yeah, but we are getting to the point where we have to decide what to do. I'm going to do the double block here. We've seen a lot of +2/+2 effects, and against that we have a good block. And if it's multiple of these, then that would be unfortunate. It looks like the damage is just happening, which is a great start. A Crone Horse. Sure. Okay. In a sense, we want the Night Hauler in play before we drop the Grey Merchant. It's just going to gain us more life, really. We could make the Disciple 4/4 and attack with it. Our opponent could attack back for 2, but we would have dealt 4. And we have the time to feed, for which we want a large creature anyway. Yeah, kind of like that. Night Hauler has been a little bit unimpressive, I have to say, but oh yeah, he has two creatures as well, so that's even better. We're actually putting on quite a bit of pressure that way. Now this is looking good. If the soldiers from the horse are blocking the Disciple every time, then I feel like we are in a good spot. We can still time to feed whatever our opponent plays next. Oh, Verika's Cure, that's even better. So that way we can cure the Griffin and drop Grey Merchant in the same turn. Yeah, that's definitely worth it. Let's do that right now. That way, if his last card is the +2/+2 enchantment, we would still have been able to time to feed. This actually drains 5 because of Viper's Kiss, which is kind of nice. I feel that we shouldn't lose to the activated ability of this thing. Elias Disciple is a 7/7. Yeah, I think we just keep attacking with that. And a nice draw step also. Grey Merchant can't really attack. Let's see what our opponent has to say about our mythic rare. A Death Touch creature, well, that's a good start. Because of this weird ability, Death Touch is kind of a good answer to Polukranos. It's really unfortunate. Maybe we should wait until we draw the bow. Nessian Cursor is nice also. Now, 7 mana gives us 3 damage that we could shoot, which means that we can kill Fleece Main Lion and the Soldier, and that makes it difficult for our opponent to block the Disciple, at least for 1 turn. Could also let him accumulate a couple of soldiers, but don't really think that's what we want to be doing. Don't know if it's actually necessary to kill the Fleece Main Lion, or if that doesn't accomplish all that much. Last but not least, we could actually allow the trade with Sedge Scorpion, but I don't think that's something that we necessarily want. I'm gonna try to activate this. Okay, so now only going to attack with the Disciple because that's already a lot of pressure. And I could see casting Time to Feed to kill the Scorpion because, oh, well, it's blocking. That's actually perfect because now it only killed the Disciple, which was a lot weaker than the Night Holder that was put on there. So now there shouldn't be too much opponent could still be doing. I think he also missed the fact that he could have activated this twice. I could use Rescue from the Underworld with the Crone Horse, and the way I understand the card, I think that it would come back under my control and then I would give it to my opponent, so that then I would start getting soldiers. Not sure if that's how it works though. Also not sure if that's what I want to be doing, because my best creatures are currently in the deck, in play. Sorry. Could Rescue from the Underworld right now, putting Night Holder in the graveyard and getting back the Disciple. I think I'm just going to... Oh no, there's a Nessian Asp, that's even better. I'm not losing to the activated ability of the Scholars, so I can just do that. It's good that our opponent only has 2 black sources. We are going to have a pretty good board in our upkeep. Two activations of the Scholar, the opponent gets to do something. 2 cards in hand, so there might still be a trick left in our opponent's hand, but it's unlikely. I just don't want to run my Time to Feed in there unnecessarily. On the other hand, any kind of trick probably has to be cast pretty soon. Let's see, this is 5. So I can bestow the Grey Merchant to have another attacker. And then I'm going to Time to Feed these 2. That way I'm not exposing any of my large creatures, but I'm still getting a nice attacker if that works. It looks like it does. Going back up to 19 and then just attacking with everything. I can't really see what our opponent wants to do against this army. Looks like Chronicler of Heroes is chump blocking, and the Burnished Heart also, and Burnished Heart is getting sacrificed for more basic lands. But after that, our opponent needs some kind of Wrath effect. because he's pretty much dead on board. That doesn't look like a wrath effect. So blocking the largest two leaves him taking 11 this turn. No divine verdict. And that's it. We won the match and the draft. Definitely because we had quite some powerful cards in our deck. The bow in particular was pretty nice, better than the whip. Polychronos was very efficient. It never felt completely unfair, but still very good. Nighthauler took some time to get going, but after that it was very, very good. Especially because we had some more removal spells after boarding. And where is it? Oh, it's exiled. Yeah, the rescues from the underworld have been absolutely amazing. I think that card is still quite underrated because you don't really need to combo with it. It's just a great way to get some value later on in the game. Okay, I hope you liked this episode. As always, I'm Simon Gartzen, recording Simon Says for mtgoacademy.com, and see you next time. Bye bye.